Welcome to Church and State with Dave Pello. I'm sitting down today with Judy Taylor, and we're talking about suicide in Australia, suicide prevention. Now, roughly $30 million a year is being spent on suicide prevention, and it's having no impact at all. The suicide rate is not declining, and there's a reason for that. There's lots of complication and complexity to the circumstances and reasons why people might take their own lives, and it's something that we need to be concerned about, because nobody in their right mind hurts themselves. It's something that we need to have compassion for and something we need to look after, because it's just the loving thing to do. Now, Judy's son actually died of suicide 5 years ago, and her story is both moving and important, because while there's emotional reality to it, there's also a very real danger that's not being addressed by the legal system or our legislators. And assisted suicides are not being reported as assisted, they're only being reported as simple suicides. And that means we're not recognising the problem, and the problem we don't identify is the problem we are powerless to resolve. So it's very important that we talk about this issue and that we raise awareness and that we get more information and more understanding. So Judy, I really appreciate you having this very difficult conversation. And I know it's not the only time. You've had your story told in some newspapers, and you've spoken at different conferences about your concerns and your worries. And whether we agree with you or disagree with you on the problems or the solutions, I think the conversations are incredibly important to have so that we can be certain instead of dismissive. Now, I actually do think you're right, and I do think that there's essentially a conspiracy of political correctness where it's just too difficult to have this conversation. And so those that have the power to stop it are unwilling to help prevent it at all. So thank you for keeping the story in our mind. Now, start with the background. Tell me about your son Lucas and how you even got involved and aware of this problem in our nation.
Okay, well, it happened 5 years ago now. Lucas was 26 years old. He'd been living out of home for quite some time. He was a very keen traveller. He was very independent. He had spent some time in South Korea teaching English. He was very academic, and I always thought he could do more than just teach English, but after his university course he wanted to get away from university, so he taught English for a while there. Then he went to Europe, did a little bit of teaching English there, did a little bit of work at the universities, things like that. And at the end of 2011, he said to me it just wasn't lucrative enough for him to work in Europe because he didn't have an EU passport. Mm-hmm. And he was thinking he might just come back to Australia and take up a law position at university here that was offered to him. And so while we were discussing that, I used to talk to him on Skype frequently or through the email every day sometimes. A couple of times during the day, and then he said, well, I've thought it through, and maybe I'll go to Japan first where I can make some quick easy money because they pay well there, and he speaks fluent Japanese as he spoke fluent German. And he said I might do that first. And I said to him, well, why don't you come home first? And he said, no, it's better if I go straight to Japan. I'll pick up a job, no worries, but then you have to leave the country to get a visa. Then I'll come back to Melbourne, and then I can go back and resume my job in Japan. So I thought that was all fair and reasonable. And then he said to me, but before I leave Europe, I'm going to do my own little European vacation, go to some countries that I haven't seen while I've been in Berlin. And so off he went. We didn't hear from him for a week or two or three.
And how often had he normally communicated with you?
Oh, at least every second day.
Okay, so 2 weeks was a long time to not hear from him.
Yes, but I thought, well, he's travelling, I suppose. Maybe he doesn't have internet access. But, after the fact, I thought he's very IT savvy. He always has internet access. But anyway, so I was starting to get a bit worried. I was sending him a few emails saying, please tell me where you are and things like that. Didn't hear anything. I got a letter from the German Railways at week 4, addressed to Lucas. And I ripped it open and read it, and it said, dear Mr. Taylor, if you have left a suitcase in one of our 24-hour lockers, and if you don't come and pick it up, it will be destroyed.
I can only imagine the knife that would have been to your heart, the fears that you would have thought were now
it was the
concrete.
beginning of every parent's nightmare. You know, and these days a lot of our adult children travel, and so I've tried to sort of be a bit dismissive of it. I thought I can't
imagine how I would.
I didn't know it was a suitcase actually. I thought maybe it's a backpack. He's left it, you know, on the station, and he's thought, it's only got books in it or something like that. So I contacted them. I said, can you please not destroy it, and can you please open it? It's not locked. They told me it wasn't locked, and I said, what's inside it? And they said clothes, toiletries, computer, camera. It's a full suitcase. So then I was really worried, and this was dated like 3 weeks before, and he still hadn't been back to get it. So he's not going to travel around without luggage for 3 weeks.
No.
So then I was sort of pretty sure that he'd been murdered. I discussed it with my other sons, and they sort of agreed, and you know, we were in a real state. I thought I have to have him listed as a missing person, and maybe, just maybe, the only thing that's going to help him is that he's fallen over and knocked his head and he's in a hospital.
Did you contact DFAT?
I did contact DFAT. They were very dismissive of it. They said he's young, he's probably on the party bus. I said he's an academic, he's not on the party bus. Very, very dismissive of it. Anyway,
did you escalate or try and go higher? And
I didn't at that point, because very soon after, my other son and I hacked into all Lucas's emails and Facebook page to see if we can find any clues as to maybe hotels he'd booked or something, and we were trying to do our own because we knew no one else was going to do it.
Yeah.
And we looked through there, we couldn't find anything. There was nothing booked. There was no flights to Japan booked. There was nothing. But we did find some correspondence from Philip Nitschke's Exit International. And I really can't remember whether I'd ever heard of Exit International at that point or not. I think I had heard of Philip Nitschke, but anyway, so we opened up these emails. There was some problem with Lucas paying his money, so there was correspondence. Lucas said, I've paid my money, I still can't get the book, or I can't access the forum or something like that. They said, be patient, you know, once the money's gone through, you'll be able to. So once that had all gone through, he had a username and a password, and they said, you're now able to access our website. And that was it. Now, this is a so-called euthanasia advocacy group, but it's actually not euthanasia, because euthanasia is when you put to death someone else for their benefit. It's what we do to animals.
You do it for them.
You do it for them. They don't ask for it. You just do it for them, or for their benefit, to kill them. And I think, you know, euthanasia in its purest form, I think that's what we call murder. So it's not euthanasia, it's assisted suicide. Yep. So as long as you've made a choice, they'll be there to help you. So I think that's sort of, you know, the point of this.
So euthanasia, it's done to you.
Yes.
Assisted suicide, they facilitate you doing it to yourself.
Correct.
Which is still illegal.
Yes, it is.
Which is something they're trying to change.
Yes, indeed they are.
Some legislators.
Yes.
Especially on the left.
Yes.
Now, tell me about Exit International's ethical guidelines and procedures. Were they offering any counselling? Were they as well as facilitating people's suicide? Were they facilitating people's health, recovery, treatment, counselling, therapy?
Well, as far as I can see, they had no ethics. As far as I could see, this was a business, and this is money for service. You pay the money, you get the service. So there is no screening, there is no questions, there is no counselling. No one says, tell us your problem, tell us how you've got terminal lung cancer. No one asks at all, and that is actually exit policy. Exit policy is that anyone who has decided for whatever reason, at whatever age, then they should be assisted to their death.
Okay. In the next segment, I want to hear about how the story with Lucas resolves and how you actually find out what has happened. And be right back. There's plenty more to hear. Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a look at this great video next, and check out the website for even more interesting articles and episodes later.